Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. You know how so many of us sometimes feel behind in life? Well, you guys asked for it, so we're going to try to unpack that feeling today. And to help us out, we're going to be using this awesome YouTube video. It's by Matthew Hussey, and it's called My Honest Advice to Anyone Feeling Behind in Life. So, whether you're feeling behind in your career, relationships, finances, you name it, hopefully we can understand that feeling a bit better and figure out what to do about it.
You know, one of the things Hussey talks about that I think is so interesting is that it's so easy to just look at what other people have achieved without really looking at how they got there.
Yeah, it's like seeing a friend who just bought their dream house.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, I'm still renting. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
But maybe they got a huge inheritance or been saving forever. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like, we only see the end result, not the whole story.
Exactly. It's totally like looking at a snapshot, not the whole movie. And that's where this idea of the hidden backstory comes in, right? Everyone's life is just so different, shaped by unique experiences, you know? Someone who seems to have it all figured out might have overcome huge obstacles. Or maybe they had advantages we don't even know about. And so comparing our journey to just their highlight reel, like, that's just setting ourselves up to feel bad.
So true. So how do we account for those hidden backstories? I mean, we can't just go around demanding people's life stories, right?
Oh, definitely not. But you know what we can do? We can try to be more curious and more empathetic. Instead of comparing, what if we ask ourselves, what might their path have been to get to this point? Or what kind of challenges might they have faced that I just don't see? I think just shifting our perspective a little bit like that, it can help us to be way less judgmental and way more understanding.
I love that. Because it's true. We never really know what battles other people are fighting. It's a good reminder to be kinder to them and also to ourselves. Which actually reminds me, Hussey also talks about how we often use the wrong yardstick to measure our own progress too. And he has this brilliant analogy about physical therapy.
Oh, yeah. He talks about how if someone's recovering from a really bad injury, even just an inch of movement, that's like a huge victory. But for, say, like a pro athlete, that wouldn't even register. And I think it's the same with like emotional and psychological growth.
So like something that might seem small to someone else, like finally setting a boundary in a tough relationship or speaking up at work when you usually stay quiet. Those could be huge steps forward for you given your own situation, right?
You got it. Our progress should be measured against where we started, not against some random external standard. And that means celebrating even what seem like tiny wins, because they're the building blocks for real change.
Absolutely. That's so important. And it makes me think, what if we applied that same idea to this whole being behind thing? What if instead of comparing ourselves to other people, we compare ourselves to like our past selves? Are we growing? Are we learning? Are we moving towards a life that feels more authentic? I mean, if the answer is yes, maybe we're not as behind as we think.
That's such a good way to look at it. It's reframing the whole thing. And I think it highlights the fact that progress isn't always a straight line. There are going to be setbacks, detours, times when we feel stuck. But as long as we're learning and growing, I think we're headed in the right direction.
That's a good point. And it kind of leads to another point that Hussey makes. I think it's really liberating, actually. It's this idea that even if we have regrets about past decisions, we were still doing the best we could with what we knew and had at that time. He actually says wishing we'd done something different is science fiction.
I love that quote. Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in that shoulda, woulda, coulda. But we can't change the past, can we? The only thing we can do is learn from it and make better choices now.
Totally. It's like giving our past selves a break. We were doing our best with what we knew then. And hopefully our best keeps getting better as we, get more experience.
Of course. I mean, we're always evolving. What might have been our best a few years ago might look totally different today. And that's a good thing. It means we're growing and becoming more self-aware.
So we've talked about those hidden backstories and kind of reframing how we see progress. But what about that whole comparing ourselves to others thing? Even when we know it's not a fair comparison, we still do it.
It's so hard not to. It's like built into us. We see someone who seems to have it all, the great job, the perfect family, the picture perfect life on Instagram. And then we just automatically start comparing ourselves to that. But here's the thing. Would we actually trade our whole lives for theirs?
Right. It's like we just want the outcome, not the whole journey. But the journey is what makes us who we are.
I know, right? Hussey says we have to take it all, the good, the bad, the messy, everything. Would we really want to erase all the tough experiences, even if they were painful? Because they made us who we are.
Yeah. I think about this time when I was going through a really bad breakup. I was so miserable, it felt like everyone else was happily coupled up. But looking back, I learned so much from that experience about self-love, boundaries, what I really want in a partner. Like, those were hard lessons,
Mm.
but they were so valuable.
That's exactly it. That's what we miss when we compare ourselves. We forget that even the things we see as negative, they can help us grow. They make us dig deep, learn new things, understand ourselves better.
It's like that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Sounds cheesy, but it's kind of true, right?
Oh, totally true. It reminds us that our journeys aren't supposed to be perfect. There will be twists and turns, ups and downs, and sometimes those detours, they actually lead to something even better.
So true. Okay, and then there's social media. It's like we're constantly bombarded with everyone's highlight reel.
It really is. It can be great for connecting with people, finding inspiration, but it can also make us feel so inadequate, especially if we're not careful about how we use it.
Because it's easy to forget that we're only seeing a tiny part of their lives. We're not seeing the struggles, the insecurities, all the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Exactly. We have to remember that those perfect pictures and captions, they're usually just an idealized version of reality, not the real messy human experience we all actually have.
It's like comparing your bloopers reel to someone else's finished movie.
Haha, exactly. So yeah, let's focus on the real stuff. Let's celebrate those unique, messy journeys.
Absolutely. Okay, so we talked about avoiding comparisons, embracing our own journeys, being mindful of social media. What else does Hussey say about dealing with this feeling of being behind?
Oh, he has this interesting idea about shifting our perspective. Instead of focusing on what we don't have or haven't achieved yet, what if we think about all the things we don't have to complain about?
I like that. He mentions this quote from Sam Harris that's a bit dark, but also comforting in a way. He says, if you think your life can't get any worse, that is just a failure of imagination.
Whoa, yeah, that's deep. But I get it. It reminds us that things could always be worse, right? And that can help us appreciate what we do have, even the small things.
For sure. Like our health, our loved ones, even just having a roof over our heads, those are all things to be grateful for.
And gratitude is so powerful. When we focus on what we're thankful for, it helps us see things differently. We can appreciate how far we've actually come.
Totally. So instead of dwelling on what we haven't done yet, maybe we should acknowledge what's going well.
That's a great point. And that actually leads to what I think is the most important takeaway from the video. It's the idea that we need to figure out what's right for us, not based on anyone else's expectations.
Yeah, he asked this really powerful question. What's right for me right now?
It's about tuning out all that outside noise. Society's expectations, pressure from family and friends, all of that, and just listening to ourselves what feels right for us.
Exactly. Maybe what's right now is focusing on your career. Or maybe it's taking care of your mental health. Or maybe it's taking a chance and going after that dream you've always had.
Yeah. It's different for everyone. There's no right answer. There's no one timeline for happiness or success. Your journey is yours, and you get to decide what feels good and fulfilling.
So how do we even begin to figure that out?
Huh.
It's easy to say, listen to your inner compass. But what if your compass is kind of broken?
Uh-huh. I get it. It's not always easy. I think it takes self-reflection, spending time with yourself, maybe through journaling, meditation, being in nature, things that help you get clear on your values, what you want, what really matters to you.
That makes sense, like taking stock of your inner world.
Exactly. And as we get more in tune with ourselves, we can start making choices that feel authentic instead of trying to fit into someone else's mold.
Yeah, this is all really resonating with me, especially that part about figuring out what's right for me. It's so easy to get caught up in what other people think we should be doing.
It really is. And in those moments of self-doubt and comparison, we have to remember that we're exactly where we're supposed to be. Our journey is unfolding perfectly, even if it doesn't feel like it.
That is such a reassuring thought. It's like permission to let go of the pressure and just enjoy the ride.
Totally. The bumps in the road are part of what make the journey interesting.
I like that. So instead of chasing some perfect idea of success or happiness,
Yeah.
maybe we should just focus on creating a life that feels real and true to us, however that looks.
I think that's the key, finding that place where our passions and values and purpose all line up. And that's a journey worth taking, even if it takes a little longer than we expected.
It's funny, right? We started talking about feeling behind, but this conversation has really changed how I think about it. It's less about catching up and more about, like, making a life that feels right here, right now.
Yeah, it's amazing what a little reframing can do. When we stop trying to compare and compete, it's like a whole world of possibilities opens up.
It's true. It's like we've been so busy looking over our shoulders that we've forgotten to enjoy the view on our own path.
Exactly. And speaking of paths, remember those hidden backstories we were talking about? What if we thought about our own lives that way? Like, what if we saw our lives as a bunch of connected experiences, each one shaping who we are and where we're going?
I love that. Like, we become archaeologists of our own lives.
Right. Digging up those stories and experiences that have made us who we are.
And maybe we realize that some of the things we thought were failures, they were actually stepping stones, you know?
Totally. And that's something I really like about Hussey's approach. He doesn't pretend that personal growth is easy. It takes effort, it takes courage, and sometimes it means facing some hard truths about ourselves.
Yeah, he keeps it real. But that's why his advice works, I think. He's not giving us some quick fix or magic formula.
He's just saying, hey, this journey is going to be messy and imperfect, but it's going to be so worth it.
And that's a good message to remember, especially when we feel discouraged.
For sure. This isn't about reaching some finish line. It's about constantly evolving, learning, and becoming more ourselves.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive. We talked about hidden backstories, redefining progress, embracing our journeys, and figuring out what's right for each of us. But before we go, I want to leave you with one last thought.
Okay, I'm listening.
We've been talking a lot about looking back. But what about looking forward? What about that next chapter of our lives, the one we're still writing? If you could design that chapter, no limits, what would it look like?
Wow, that's a big question. I love it. It's like we're giving ourselves permission to dream big.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's dream big for a minute. What are those dreams you'd chase if you knew you couldn't fail? What relationships would you build? What adventures would you have?
It's like we're shifting from feeling behind to feeling empowered.
Right. And maybe, just maybe, if we let ourselves dream like that, those limitations we feel might start to seem a little smaller.
It reminds me of that quote by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
I love that quote.
Maybe when we embrace that power to dream and create, we can unlock our true potential.
And who knows? Maybe those dreams that seem impossible now could become our reality someday. So, as we wrap up, I want you to remember that anything is possible. Believe in yourself and keep working towards that life that feels truly right for you.
Yeah, don't be afraid to keep exploring and growing. This deep dive might be over, but your journey is just getting started.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Until next time.